Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So the outdoor flea markets are back in action here in New England. Well, sort of. What ended up happening was one of the outdoor flea markets that I go to decided to have their opening day on Easter Sunday. So I'm going to feature some items that I did pick at that outing, and then I'm going to show you some stuff I picked at the used tool store around the same time. The other outdoor flea market I had hit down in Connecticut about a week before that Easter Sunday, and that was pathetic. So I got like one little box of stuff that I got there. They had forecast rain in the afternoon, so when I got there was one dealer set up early in the morning. Finally, about 5 dealers set up. I picked everything I could from those 5 dealers and was home in plenty of time. So that was kind of a disappointment, but it is what it is. So let's start with the slim pickings from the outdoor flea market. That's it. One dealer was the only one I got anything off of. And in fact, initially, when I was going down and looking through his stuff, I didn't see anything. This is the only item I saw, and then I was like contemplating how I didn't want to even pay for this, because it's like I don't get a lot of money for these anyways. And then I was looking through and I saw and I noticed, well, that he had this whole little tray of these little tiny Craftsman wrenches, little tiny ones, and I was like, oh, well, these are actually kind of handy for like distributor work and stuff like that. So I was like, So I got to take $5 for this lot. So I figured, all right, I did okay. Or it might have even been 10. I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was 10. But that's what it is, you know. I'll go through here and I'll pick out the ones that I want to keep, and then the other ones I'll just I don't know what the heck I'll do. Somehow I'll sell them. That's funny. I was just looking at these two little pocket scales. This one is actually badged Associated Locksmiths of America Incorporated. So that's kind of neat. It's a 25th anniversary, 1956 to 1981 cooperative effort of locksmiths. Huh. That might be actually that might be collectible to somebody. And this one is just says Bearings Inc. And of course this is a Craftsman, in case I didn't mention it. It's a 9-4029 stainless protractor. So as pathetic or anemic as that haul was from that flea market, which was due to rain, you know, I was thinking, okay, great, now Easter Sunday, opening day of the big outdoor flea market that I did go to, and I'm surely that's going to redeem me, right? Everybody's been cooped up all winter with COVID and everything else going on. They're probably itching to get rid of their stuff. There should be a lot of dealers, and there should be a lot of stuff to go through. The dealer that I see every single show, because he's always got interesting stuff, he was there. So I ran right over, looked in the back of the truck, spotted a box that looked like it had some machinist items in it, and started going through the box. The box was loaded with a lot of good drill bits and taps, but I'm kind of over that unless I can buy them like by the pound. And so initially, I asked him for a price on the whole box. He said $100. So when he said that, I pulled out these 2 items and said, how much just for these 2 items? And he said $20. Sold. So the first thing I spotted was this clearly an import branded tool post. However, even though it's an import brand tool post, it's got a lot going for it. For one thing, it's pretty clean looking, and it's not a piston style, it's a wedge style. So for those of you who aren't familiar with quick change tool posts and are thinking of investing in one, what you need to know, or what you should know, is that there are 2 basic fastening mechanisms used on this style of quick change tool post. There's what's called the piston style, which is the older style, where on this face right here, there's a round, or actually on some of them now they have an oblong, not really an oval, more like a square with rounded corners. They've made that piston
size, surface area larger. On the original ones, it was just a circle. And what happens is there's an internal cam mechanism that when you turn this handle, it will push this piston out against the holder that's slid over the dovetails, and that's what gives you your locking action. Okay, so there's that, and then Aloris, I believe, is a company that developed this design, where they then figured out essentially it's like a jib. It's like a sliding jib that actually moves with the handle. So what happens is you get this dovetail diameter from here to here. The length from here to here on this dovetail actually increases as this jib slides down, as this wedge slides down. And that's what locks that on. And it's a much better locking mechanism. So there are still a lot of cheap imports out there that aren't copying this design and are still using the piston. So the first thing you want to look at is if you're not buying a genuine Aloris and you're looking at another brand, if it's a cheap import, avoid the ones with the piston, in my opinion. This appears to be a phase 2 based on the fact that, well, actually, let's see. This is a 250-102 holder. So we should be able to identify the size. This looks like it's going to be an AXA size. Yeah, so 250-102 is a part number that's used by Phase 2. Unfortunately, apparently now, a lot of these import holders are using this numbering system. So you can't guarantee that this is necessarily a Phase 2. Apparently even Shars, they come badged as Shars, and they come badged as like no names. Like you can get this generic one on Amazon, this holder brand new for $23, and these holders they're calling this an AXA size, which means it fits the 100 series in the cheap import style holders, but the AXA is good for up to a 12-inch swing lathe, and I would say on a 12-inch you're kind of pushing it. Like on my Hendy, if I ever get around to finishing that project, my Hendy's got a 12-inch swing on it, I believe, and I'm going to put a BXA on that one. And then on my Vernon, that's a 14-inch lathe. I got a CXA on that. The BXA would definitely be a little small for, well, actually, maybe not. Anywho, I digress. So, I'm into these two things for $20. This is just a Jacobs chuck, but what's nice is it's a super chuck. So it's a ball bearing chuck. So this is number 14N. So the N suffix on the number is what denotes that this is the super ball bearing style, which is an improvement. The other style would be significantly older, but it's like, hey, it's even got the chuck key, and it's on an R8. It's ready to go right in a Bridgeport or a mill with an R8 spindle. So even though I don't need one, I figured I'd grab it because I know that he's really good on his prices, and he was. Jaws look good. So I'm into each of these for $10. So I don't know if it was the fact that I had been walking around for a while after that first initial pick and hadn't found anything, or what it was that made me succumb to a moment of weakness and yet again find myself buying another mobile CB radio. The other thing is this was a guy, he brought in a big truck, a moving truck, and it clearly looked like they had ended up with like the contents of a house they had cleaned out or something, and that they did a lot of moving maybe, and I don't know what the heck the story was behind it. This antenna, cables, everything was there. There were several manuals for other CBs that weren't there. Nothing that really caught my eye. But this one here is a Cobra. It's a 21 LTD. It's fairly clean. It's not sideband or anything. Pretty plain Jane radio. Still got the bracket on it. There was a magnet mount antenna that was sitting here that I left because it was a small one I had no interest in. It's got the original Cobra microphone. It's even all set up. Somebody spliced in a 12 volt so you can go right in the cigarette lighter with this, which made me think this came right out of somebody's car, and it was good chance that this was a working radio when it was pulled. And I got this for $5. So I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. You know, I've got my RCI radio in the white Dodge pickup there, and I actually don't even have it mounted in that truck. I keep it under the seat, and you know, for the occasional times that we would go on a long trip where I wanted to be able to talk to truckers, I would pull it out. But the reality is, I don't need the RCI. Is way too sophisticated a mobile radio for just going down the highway talking to trucks that are near you. Something like this would be, you know, might fit the bill better. So, anywho, $5. Oh, geez, I totally forgot about the stuff in this bag. It's from the same flea market, and I just came across it when I went to get what I thought was the last item. So let's zip through this stuff real quick. So as the day wore on, I had to keep going back because some dealers were putting out more stuff, and then I had to go into the mode where you dig deep. You know, the first time through, you try and hit everybody and go through and see if you can spot any good deals, and you got to keep moving fast, right? But then as the day wears on, you get into the mode of, okay, let's go back and see what we may have missed, and you start digging into boxes and looking into drawers of things and stuff like that, and that's exactly how I ended up with this stuff here. First off, I don't even remember what dealer I came across that had this can't twist clamp laying there, and believe me, I asked if she had any others. I do remember her now. She had blankets on the ground and just all kinds of stuff, and bins and of tools, and I was digging through, and it was a lot of junk tools and stuff that were just, you know, everyday common tools, nothing I could really use. And then I spotted this clamp, and I was able to get this clamp, I think for, I want to say $3. Or I think I offered her 3 and she wouldn't take less than 5. But that's good. It's a 2-inch can't twist for $5. That's a good deal. I think she might have also had this in one of the drawers of one of the little junky toolboxes that she had there. And I believe I had noticed that this was a, yeah, this is a General Hardware number 77 automatic center punch, and it works perfectly fine. So I probably only paid a couple bucks for that. Which I think I got her to throw in this cable too with that for a couple bucks. This is Johnson Components Division Test Products and Patch Cord. I have no idea how old this is, but it's just it's a meter lead. It's just a positive one, but you know, it's got the standard banana plug on it. These are handy. Always can use those. The leads go bad sometimes on you. This guy right here, this is a honey for the money. This guy had some mechanics tool boxes and stuff. He had one of those mechanics tool carts with a drawer in it, and I was going through the drawers and or a mechanics toolbox, I forgot what, but I was going through the drawers and I spotted this little guy. It's a little machinist's jack, and if it's a shop made one, it's really a nice little one. I got this for $1, and boy, I looked high and low for the other one because it would have been nice if they were a pair, but I didn't see any markings or anything on this, so I think this is just a shop made sucker. You can make some observations here that would indicate that this is definitely a home shop project or something like that, along those lines. There's a lot of turning marks that are still present that haven't been polished out or buffed out. There's a little very faint line right there where it looks like maybe while cutting the taper probably stopped the tool for a moment or something and caused that line right there. This knurling on here is really nice. This knurling down here on the magnification, you can see that it looks like the crosshatch stepped on itself. So probably, again, a movement, inadvertent, or resetting the tool at some point. I don't know. I still like it. And it was only $1. Then I went back to the guy who I bought those first 2 items from, the tool post and the chuck from, and started to go through his his table of junk. The feeding frenzy was over, so now the stuff that was laying there was going to be more the dirt cheap deal. So I was looking at this thing and we were talking about it, and I don't know, we were just kind of like trying to theorize about it, its purpose, why it is the way it is. And in the end, before I could make him an offer on it, he said, "You can have it." So he actually gave me this for free. I buy, he now knows my face and I buy enough stuff from him, so I guess he figured, what the hell. So what is it? Well, it's a pair of solenoids. Could be for a starter. Definitely a high current application. You can see this, they're tying these lugs together with a big strap. So the question is, why the heck is it made the way it's made? So if we try and follow the current path, we've got a lug here on this one that's marked BAT for battery, and then I don't see any marking on the other side. So the case is probably the ground, and then this post right here is probably your where your voltage is going to go to actuate the plunger. Okay, so the way a solenoid works, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, is you've got these big copper contacts up here, and you've got a plunger that basically moves those copper contacts against each other. There's a spring that, when there's no power here, the spring keeps that plunger down so that it's not activating the contacts, not closing the contacts. The plunger has an iron core that is in a sleeve with copper wire wound around it. It's a coil. It's an electromagnet. So when you put 12 volts to that electromagnet, it pulls that plunger, or actually in this case it pushes that plunger up to close these contacts. The whole purpose of this is so that you can get a low voltage, a low current source, like from an ignition key contact or something like that, to actually control a high current load like the starter. Starter mode is going to draw a whole lot of current. If you tried to run that current through the tiny contacts in your ignition key, it would toast them. It would burn up. So this is why you have solenoids. Sometimes these are mounted in conjunction with the starter so that the solenoid does two jobs, that the solenoid doesn't just close the contacts, but that the solenoid will also move out the starter pinion gear to engage the flywheel. That's like on my Dodge Ram and a lot of other automobiles, they do it that way. Whereas this has nothing to do with moving any parts on the starter. This is a standalone. You could bolt this anywhere in the vehicle and then run the cables to it. But that's what this device is here. And what somebody did here is, you can see the standard mounting is there. They took two of them. They mounted them back to back on this bracket, so it could be mounted to a firewall or in a bulkhead or something, right? So if anybody's ever seen a setup like this and happens to know what this goes to, I'd be interested to know. I just figured it would be something handy to have, because worst case scenario is I can steal one of these solenoids out of this whole setup right here and just use it in a situation where if I get a solenoid that goes bad on something. Well, I was able to find out that most likely these solenoids are made by Prestolite. The only solenoids I could find that were double pole like this were made by Prestolite, and when I looked them up, the picture looks like the design is exactly like this. So I think these are Prestolites. Interestingly enough, a single Prestolite like this is listed on eBay as supposedly being for John Deere. I don't know a John Deere what, but also for a Warren winch. So you could see that if you took two of these, and because of the double pole configuration, you could wire these so that they could be used to switch polarity on a DC motor, like in a winch where forward and reverse is required. So anyways, enough about that. So then I still really wasn't so thrilled with the meager pickings I had found up until that point, and I was going along, and looking at some of the other dealers' tables, and was walking along, and all of a sudden I saw this clock. Or, well, more on this in a moment, but all right. So, kind of has an interesting look to it. This is kind of like a fake mother of pearl deal that they did on here. It's almost like mirrors. So it's actually in really good shape. It's missing one little piece. It fell off here. This is plastic, I think. It says GE Telecron. Okay. Which Telecron, I think, was a trade name of a movement that GE had back in the day. So if we look in the back here, there is the, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, wow, somebody put in a new movement. This is a modern movement, I thought. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute, look at the battery size. This is a C-sized cell. And so, in fact, it isn't a really modern quartz movement like I thought. It's the original General Electric cordless clock movement. So it's like, okay. But what the guy who was selling this didn't realize about this thing is that he actually thought that this was a chime clock, because with this clock are 4 long hanging brass chimes that I got, and they're in excellent shape. And he thought this was like I said, he thought this was supposed to be like a Westminster chime clock, but couldn't figure out how it was supposed to work. The reality is, this is a doorbell. This unit right here goes inside that cabinet. And what you got is you've got 4 plungers right here with 4 solenoids. When the solenoid is activated, the plunger shoots out and hits the back of one of those tubes that would be hanging from a string that loops over these little dog ears right here. Newtone made this style of door chime for quite a few years, and the initial ones, basically they just had, typically they would have two chimes, and you could wire them for a front door and a rear door. And the idea was, if it was the front door, you would press the button, and when you press the button, it would fire a double-ended solenoid to hit one chime, and then on the spring return, it would bounce back and hit the other chime, and you would get the 2-note ding dong, which everybody knows from back in the day. Then, if you had the rear door wired to the rear door terminal, it would only fire and hit. It would be an independent solenoid that would hit just the one tube, and you'd get the single tone. So you would know, if you were in the house, if you heard the ding dong, you know it was the front door, and if you just heard a ding, you know it was the back or side door. This took things to a whole nother level. Now what they've done is, at this point, they figured out, hey, we can have 4 different chimes, all different notes. We have 4 independent solenoids, and if we fire them sequentially in a particular order, we can have a little tune that it'll play, much more elaborate. And the way that this does this is kind of ingenious. It actually has a clockwork motor right here, and there is a series of switches inside here. And what happens is, when you press the doorbell button, it starts this motor rotating. And the motor is designed so that it will start rotating and it won't stop until it completes its revolution. As it's turning and doing the one revolution, there's a contact in there, arm that goes by and hits several contacts. And that's how it fires off these solenoids independently in whatever order that they basically set it up for. So I'm going to do a whole series on this, basically cleaning, testing, restoration type of thing on this, and demonstrating how it works at a later date. These in restored condition are actually quite valuable. Even a used as is parts unit like this right here could easily bring 75 bucks on eBay to somebody who needed the parts. The fact that I have the tubes, which I saw somebody sold 4 tubes, just the tubes alone for a couple $100, and I've got the actual original clock right here, means that I've got quite the score here, especially since he accepted my offer of 50 bucks for this, which I think was a great deal. I actually haven't been able to identify this exact model. There's a model number clearly on this unit right here, and it says style number K45, but that is basically this unit and the 4 chimes. So then Newtone made this unit with the 4 chimes, but then they made more than one, apparently, clock case. So there is a model, I forgot the name of it. There's a model, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one that keeps coming up when I search for this unit. And it looks completely different. It looks much more colonial looking, brown wood in that. This has a very different, almost like a, I was thinking Art Deco, maybe not, maybe more of a, I can't think of the design period I'm trying to think of that this kind of alludes to. But it's pretty cool. At least I think so.